looking to pursue your PhD or postdoc from universities in Israel, then keep watching. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the most requested topics, that is education in Israel. I had the opportunity to get all the information that a student looks for applying for a postdoc or a PhD degree in Israel. This video is divided into two parts. This is part 1. If you have already watched it, you can now go to part 2 and watch it right away. You can now comment down below and tell me what other topics you would like me to cover with regards to education in Israel. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button for more content on Israel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to receive notifications whenever I upload a new video. Let's go! सो धनश्री मॅडम, आमचं टेस्ट चालू आहे आता सध्या.
येस.
काय कसं वाटतंय तुम्हाला आमच्या चॅनलवर येऊन?
नवीन आहे माझ्यासाठी, छान वाटतंय. पण
मराठी मुली एकत्र बसले जरा गप्पा मारायला.
हो, ते तेल अवीव मध्ये.
I would like to welcome Dhanashree. This is my first video where we'll be talking about education in Israel, and to give you the context of how this happened, I met Dhanashree at Tau first for India Week when I had the opportunity to teach Bollywood dancing. So she was there. We had a brief conversation, and then I met her for Maharashtra Day where she was the anchor for the event. आणि इतकी उत्कृष्ट मराठी बोलली, काय बोलू मी. And after that we connected very well because we belong to the same state, we speak the same language. I reached out to her saying like, hey, you're pursuing your postdoc at Tel Aviv University, like would you be comfortable sharing information for our people who want to come and pursue? And she readily said yes. Thank you, Dhanashree, for taking out the time.
You are most welcome.
Moving the spotlight to you, please introduce yourself. The audience would love to know what are you doing, where are you from?
As she already said, I am Dhanashree. I am a postdoc right now at Tau. I'm in the Sackler medicine faculty, but previous to this I had done my PhD from India, from a very renowned institute there called the Tata Hospital or ATREC, which is in Mumbai. And of course, when you say Tata Hospital, it was in cancer biology, and here itself I am also doing a postdoc in cancer biology, different offshoot which we'll talk about later.
So coming to postdoc, I wanted to know, usually in India people pursue up to masters. Doing PhDs like something very big, and now you're doing postdoc. So I just wanted to understand your journey of like why you decided to pursue postdoc, like what really inspired you. Is there something in your head that you decided I want to do postdoc?
Oh, that's a tough one. Okay, so yes, so I did my masters, and I'll tell you it like a story that actually happened to me. So I did my masters, and during my masters, anywhere in India, when you do a masters, you have to do a dissertation project, which is 6 months usually, which is done in a research lab, so that you get an exposure to what the research lab looks like, how you study, what do you do there.
Right.
It's very different from the college life. That is the point I kind of decided that I want to do a PhD. It was pretty clear to me at that point that this is something so exciting. I am not somebody who wants to do a monotonous job.
Okay.
Who can do the same thing repeatedly over years again and again. Want something new every day. Science excites me. Biology excites me. Physics excites me, but more so biology. So I decided to go for a PhD then.
Okay.
So the PhD journey is long in India, and it just happened over years.
Just to like for our audience to know, like how long tentatively does a PhD journey look
on
like?
On paper it says 5 years, but it never happens in 5 years. It's usually 6 as the average in India. Many institutes are known for prolonging it to 7-8 years.
Like
I am not making
this
you
case only in India, like you go a little more than 5 years, or is it like everywhere in the world?
In Europe or in Israel for that matter.
Okay.
When they say 5 years, they mean 5 years.
Okay.
In the US, it can be anything more than that, more like India. But India, it's definitely much more. That's the reason why many candidates choose to do a PhD abroad.
Now that makes much more sense. Why do we have so many PhD students at Tau? But
yes, and then so I did my PhD for like 6.5 years.
Wow. Okay.
No, but that's fine. I mean, I had a break in between, which is what I think I compensated for. So it was more or less fine. Post PhD, I was sure that after PhD you can either go to the industry in India, the pharmaceutical or the R&D industry, or you go to research. These are the two major options. There are smaller other options, but these are two major options. I am very sure I'm not an industry person. I was very sure on that all the time. I still think so. I did not choose science to do the same experiment over and over again every day. by somebody else telling me why to do it. That ruins science for me. So for me, no offense to the industry, but for me it doesn't work personally. So I was sure I want to continue academic research, which means that in the longer run I can also be a scientist or a principal investigator, just like my PhD guide or my postdoc guide are, and I could have students whom I will train then for PhD. So that's the long-term goal. No one knows if I'm going there or no, but with that goal I started looking for postdocs. And when I was looking for postdocs abroad, I wanted to learn abroad now because I wanted to switch gears, I wanted to learn new technology and things like that. So when you think abroad, you have options like US, which comes first to mind. You have options anywhere in the Europe. Right. You have options in Israel, which is, I consider it more or less like Europe in terms of culture and in terms of science. Then you also have some options in Australia and New Zealand where people go for research. But US is a total no-no for me. I'm
Any reason like why a big no-no for
yes,
US?
So multiple reasons. One, including that it's not a change from Indian culture. It's the scientific culture or the work culture is slogging, just like in India. You are expected to work n number of hours. The more number of hours you work makes you more sincere, gets you paid well. Yes. See, the life in US is more or less easier in terms of money, in terms of having house help, in terms of having other things. But the science that you do there is more publication oriented or goal oriented. It's not, oh, I want to explore what's going on in a cell, let's do it. It's not like that. The curiosity part is less. In Europe, that's what makes it beautiful. Curiosity part is much more. People give you independence to explore the science. People are throughout Europe and Israel, people are interested in you having a work-life balance.
Definitely. I will
strong
say
reason.
That.
Yes, you would agree that, and that's a strong reason I wanted Europe and Israel, but not US. So I never applied to US. Then I applied to 2 people only.
Okay.
Thankfully.
In universities?
In 2 different universities. One is here in Tau, which is to Professor Nita Ayres, where I work right now. And the other one was at Glasgow. It's also a good institute, the Beats Institute. Everybody in the cancer field knows it.
Okay.
And the lab is also good. It's Sarah Zaneman's lab, which was also good. I applied to both places. How did I get through my postdoc? I got it because of Twitter ads, which is a very important point to note. If you're looking for active PhD or postdoc positions outside of India, Twitter is the thing to go, because those scientists who are active on Twitter and who keep posting their ads on Twitter are really active in responding to you. They will reply to your mails. They will tell you a yes or no. They will schedule interviews with you. It's a high chance.
So that's something new.
Yes, look for Twitter.
Twitter install kar do bachcho.
Yes.
I think it's time.
Yes, Twitter install kar do and follow all the people in your field that you want to go to, and you will definitely get good positions available. So yes, so that's how I landed up in this place. This was the first lab of my choice and she chose me, so I was more than happy to join. And here I was in like 4 months after the ad was posted.
So that was very quick.
After the 7 years of PhD, I think that was very quick.
Wow. So now, आपने decide किया कि okay, you're gonna do postdoc, you apply to Tau. Within 4 months, you were here. Mm-hmm. The audience wants to know, before getting into Tau, like what is the eligibility criteria? What documents do you need to submit? What's the way to go?
While I am a postdoc, I will talk for both PhD and postdoc, because the starting process is same for both. When you apply abroad anywhere, be it Israel, Europe, US, you have to first start by finding the mentor or the guide, whose lab you're going to join. And this has no criteria. You have to go and search on Twitter. You have to get through friends from different universities who are already abroad, who are studying, and you have to know that there is a position available. Sometimes you don't even have a position posted from a lab, but if you like the lab's profile and you like the PI, you should still write to them, I suggest. If they like you, if they like a conversation with you, if they like your interview or overall the candidature, they will generate a position for you.
Does that happen? Like,
it happens. It happens to my friends, and it happens. Go through all the major institutes in each country that you want to go to. Then through the institutes, you can, for example, if I want to go to Israel, then I will look at Weizmann Institute, I will look at Technion Medicine, I will look at Tel Aviv University, I'll look at the biology profile of different professors in this department, and then I'll choose 2, 3, 4 of them, shortlist my priority wise to start with, and then start applying them in the priority of my choice. So I start, say, with A person, B person. At a time, don't put too many applications. Usually, I think that is one problem I think that all the PhD candidates who are looking for PhD do. They put applications to like 10 PIs in the same university, and they're going to talk to each other. They know what's going on. So, the chances of chances of them realizing that you are just interested in their work is not seen.
So do you mean by PI in the same lab or the same department? That's what you mean, or different departments? How does that work?
So for example, let's talk about Tel Aviv University as an example. So it has one entire building which is medicine faculty. It has one entire building which is life science faculty. All of this is biology, and all of this has cancer biology too. And they're going to talk to each other in all conferences. They're going to talk to each other. They're separate PIs. They own their own labs, but the department remains same: life science or medicine.
Could you tell the full form of PI for our
PI
audience?
is principal investigator. In simple words, the scientist that you want to work with, or the guide or the mentor under whom you want to do your research. Start by doing that. Start by locating the labs of your choice and prioritize them in the order, and then write to people, one or two at a time. It's a good idea to write to multiple people from different universities. Don't write to 10 scientists in the same university at a time. That doesn't work. You have to write to different people. Once you hear back from them, which I think the percentage is going to be like 10%, the others will never respond. They're busy people and they don't respond, which is unfair, but that's how it is. So of those people who respond to you, most likely 90% of those people will ask for recommendation letters. Just the next step. Very rarely you will find somebody asking you to schedule an interview directly. Most of the people will first like to have a recommendation, a first-hand recommendation for you from the previous guides that you have worked with. If you're already a PhD and you're applying for a postdoc, then it is definitely your PhD mentor, your PhD guide. During your PhD, all of us in India or anywhere for that matter generally have a team of scientists called as the committee, which deals with your work, which analyzes or promotes you to the next level. Those committee members are also scientists. So other than your PhD guide, those people whom you have confidence that you have a good relationship with and they can write good about you, those people you can select for your recommendation.
And to quantify, like how many recommendations?
Usually it is 3. Most of the universities will ask you for 3 good recommendations. If you are a postdoc candidate, then 1 from your PhD guide, 1 from any other guide of your choice, if from your institute, from any institute, and the third one is mostly required from an institute where you have not done your PhD. So apart from your PhD institute, they'll try to look for, have you collaborated with somebody outside your institute, and have you spoken to them? How was the experience? That's what they try to see.
To give an example, did you give them a recommendation outside your institute?
Yes,
what
I did.
was the collaboration that you did?
So it wasn't a collaboration, but in India, I was a UGC PhD fellow. I got a UGC fellowship, CSIR UGC, which requires that your committee, your PhD test committee, has one person outside of the university.
Got it.
So I already had one scientist from NCCS Pune. She was a part of my committee and she knew my work closely. She has seen my 5 years, 6 years of PhD. So she wrote a recommendation for me.
Awesome.
Or if you have collaborations, you can use them. You have to decide based on how well known the PI is outside. Whose recommendation you are giving. That person should also be like well known. Sometimes nobody knows, that's fine. We are from different geographical regions and we don't collaborate, so we don't know. But that person, you should have a confidence that that person will write a good reco for you. That person, I'm not saying a flattering reco, but at least put up the points that, why you are a suitable candidate for this position, how you will be a good addition to the lab, and how collaborative you are with the lab, how friendly you are in the lab, do you help people? These are the things PS try to look.
Just to understand the recommendation part a little better, do you maybe request them with a script saying that maybe these are the pointers you could possibly add?
So mostly no. These people are experienced in writing recommendation letters for so many students. They know what to write. It's a very personalized thing. A recommendation written for me will not suit you. They don't script it either. They think about the person in front and write it. But yes, most of them will ask you to give a brief abstract or a summary of your PhD work or your thesis work, dissertation work, which is based on which they will pick up pointers to write one paragraph about what work you have done in this lab and how during this work, how do you know them. But on the personal things that they will write about you, they will write by themselves. Once you send the recommendation letters, and if they seem to be good enough and you find that people are happy with it, the approaching PI will try to schedule an interview with you, which is your third step. If you reach this step, this itself is a big thing. I said, if you apply to 100 people, 10 people will respond. Of those 10 people, 90 will ask for recommendations for sure, or almost 100. And once in the recommendation letters, I'm sure they get a lot of applications and get a lot of good recommendation letters. Usually a PI, when he or she sets out an ad on Twitter or through channels or through the website of the university, they expect to get somewhere between 20 to 30 applications for one post or one person. Usually out of them, they interview only 2 or 3. after reading the recommendation letter. That's the general statistics. It may change in different universities, but you are scheduled for the interview. Then the very important step, of course, is how you give your interview. Quick tips for the interview, be it your PhD or your postdoc. Quick tips. Whatever work you have done in a research lab previous to this, if it was a PhD work, or if you are a PhD candidate, then in your MSc, the dissertation that you have done, try to summarize it in like 10 slides maximum in a PowerPoint presentation and keep it handy. When they ask you in the interview, tell us something about your work, ask them whether you want it, whether you want me to present it quickly, which is what they prefer. They should have data in front of them rather than just talking words or theory. So that's something I would say. Keep a quick presentation ready of your previous work. Include all the techniques that you know, but more than that, what people are looking for is, they will teach you the techniques. They are not worried about that. What they're looking is the science behind it. Tell them the reason why you did an experiment, what made you do that, and that is how they know that you are thinking critical. You are fit for research. They don't want to know what all techniques you have done. So don't focus too much on that.
Okay.
And be honest. Be confident, but be honest. Do not make promises or do not say false things which you don't know. It is fine to say, no, I don't know this, than bluffing about it.
I think it's like a job interview where even when you try to bluff, and then there are like hiring managers who know that he or she are bluffing.
Exactly.
It's exactly with the PIs, right?
Yes, and if you are stuck at such a point and they pick it up, they will, trouble you with those questions more, just to figure out that are you bluffing or are you serious about it. And it is fine not to know a lot of things. I have seen this at least personally, people abroad are very open to teach you new things, even at the postdoc level. Then why not at the PhD? I mean, for a postdoc, it's expected that you are very much experienced. You have like 6-7 years of research experience. When I joined this lab, for example, just to cite an example, I had never worked with animal models. My entire PhD, I had never worked. And this lab that I'm working with presently completely works with animal models. And still I'm chosen and I'm here, right? And she knew about it. My PI knew that I don't. And she just asked me, are you ready to learn? I said, yes, I want to. That is something that I really want to add to my CV. I want to, and she said, okay. So it's like that. Don't bluff about things. Be confident, but be honest, and keep a presentation handy. Read their work. Don't go by saying I'm interested in your lab and I really like the work and then know nothing about their lab. Read the lab work, read their recent papers, reviews, and if you have genuine questions, write it down. They may ask you this during, or you may put it across that I have some questions about this work. Can I ask you? And they know then you have read.
Right.
And you're thinking what can be done about that experiment, what can be done about that project. So that gives a good impression.
So just to be more specific, what are the documents required need to be submitted to the institute or to your PI to be able to get in TAU?
Even though I'm talking only about TAU right now, or the Tel Aviv University, but this applies to generally broad spectrum, most of the labs anywhere across.
Okay.
So like I said already, first thing is 3 recommendation letters. You're going to need 3 recommendation letters. Make sure that you try to give recommendation from actual practicing scientists or principal investigators, be it the person you did your MSc dissertation with, be it your PhD mentor, or be it something like that, somebody you have collaborated and worked with. Avoid giving the recommendation from your MSc or BSc professors. It's little less valid than the one from actual scientists. But if you have absolute no chance to give 3 recommendations, then you can go for that.
Got it.
Just an addition, I have also written recommendation for my own trainees.
Okay.
Who were MSc trainees with me. Like they did their dissertation in my lab and I'm the postdoc now.
Okay.
So when you're a postdoc, you can still write a recommendation. So if they don't have enough recommendations from 3 different people, they can use the postdoc with whom they have worked with and still write a recommendation. Somebody from the research background is needed. That's one. Second, of course, your CV. It has to be updated. If you have publications, definitely add them up. That's an important thing. Try to put a link in the soft copy of the CV for your publication, so the PI doesn't have to go and find your publication. He can just click and see your publication. Make it easy for them.
Okay.
Make a simple short CV. Don't write too much.
And how long do you think? Like maybe 1 page or little
2
more?
pages.
2 pages are good enough.
Good enough. For me.
Okay. Now, because in my experience, I know it's like postdoc, but when you're actually finding a job in Israel, they don't look at your CV if it's 2 pages long. It has to be 1 page. That's why I asked you.
Right.
But
so the shorter the better. The next thing is a motivation letter, which is also required. So you basically have to write why you want to do research at this university, why this particular lab, how it's going to add to your career profile, what's your long-term goal. and how this is going to be nice to you and what you can contribute to their lab by coming here. Why should they take you? All these very general questions which we are always confused about.
Right.
But still we have to write it, are the ones that you need to write in a nice motivation letter saying that you're motivated.
And my question is, when you're actually writing to your to-be PI, like, do you send an email with your CV and your research interest, like, all together? Or do you send them, let's say, when you're applying on the website?
So these are two different questions. If you are finding a PI by your own self, say through Twitter ads or through known contacts or whatever, then you simply write an email.
Okay.
And in the email, the content of your motivation letter actually goes like the email.
Okay.
It goes as the content of your the main content of your mail is why you're writing this letter.
Got it.
It's not really like I am subject this and I am this. It's not that. It's like a conversation.
Got it.
Dear so and so, this is what I am. This is what I want to do. This is why I'm writing to you. A motivation letter, and then you attach a CV. And if you have publications, attach a publications. That's how you will send it. If you are applying through a university program, which usually is the case of PhDs. Many of the universities have a PAN program under which you apply to the PhD program.
Okay.
And then you get selected and then you select your mentor. That's a different game. But again, the competition there is much huge because random people are going to apply, like n number of people are going to apply. Okay.
So you would recommend like people would go out on Twitter and like other platforms to
highly recommend because that way you choose your lab. You know what the work they're doing and you know that by reading it, you know this is of my type, this is not of my type. You know it. You don't land up in a lab that is absolute alien to you.
Let's move on to something very specific. I remember you told me that you are currently working under a professor. Should I call her a scientist? Should I call her a professor? Like
Professor.
A professor. Her name is Netta Ares.
Netta Ares, that's right.
So how did you end up working like for her, under her, and getting the experience?
This was a very personalized story maybe, but that's how it usually happens. During your PhD, you usually go to conferences and you hear people's work, and that is where, and it's a networking opportunity, not just the content of science, but it's for networking. So you look at different profiles. Okay, this is the kind of work that I like. Maybe her lab or maybe his lab I would like to join as a postdoc, and you have a word with during the conferences. That is how I met my current professor. I met her in the EACR Congress at Amsterdam, which happened in 2018. So she presented her work there, which was, as always, amazing. And it is cancer biology, but it's a different shift within the cancer biology domain. It's different from what I did in my PhD. It's a very happening field. It's called tumor microenvironment, and it's a very happening field. It was upcoming then. It is still blooming currently in 2022. And so I remembered that I liked her work and I wanted to like always work with her, but it was too early. I mentioned it to her and she said that okay, you can send me your CV. It was too early. I was in my 4th year of PhD. I was way too away from finishing.
So this was when you actually met her and you told her like I would love to have experience, and that you took the opportunity to like tell her okay, I would love to.
You should
work.
always do that.
Awesome.
Utilize the time that you go to your conference. Okay, so I did that and then nothing in between happened. I finished my PhD and I decided to move still to the tumor microenvironment field because every day there were more interest I got into it. So I thought of doing that. So that is when I followed all the important people in the microenvironment field in cancer biology on Twitter. So I started following many of these people, of course including Netta Ares. That is where both Netta Ares and Sarah Zanevan, the second one that I applied, posted their ads.
Okay.
So now I knew that okay, I like her work already. I have been knowing, I heard her work firsthand and I like it.
Right.
I want to go to her lab, I want to go to this field, and now she has a post. Then I applied to her through a mail, writing like a small motivation and my CV.
Just to be clear, do they also mention their email in the tweet that they mention like this, we have a position
They usually
open?
have a link saying that apply to this or these are people with labs, so they will always have websites. So you can simply click on their name on Google and you will find the website in that university. So I applied to her lab by myself and I was waiting her response. Apparently she was out of office for some days and the mail went down and she could not read my mail. It just skipped it. I wrote a reminder to her.
That's good. You should always do that. Send a reminder email
to her. And I wanted to hear yes or no. Tell me so that I stop following you. So I wrote a reminder to her, which is where she very nicely said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, your mail just missed up. It went down." And then she replied back saying the same thing, give me recommendation letters. I said, okay. I sent recommendation letters over a period of 10 days, collecting from everyone. The recommendation letters were sent directly from the scientist to this scientist. It's not through me.
It's never through the student?
It's not. It's like they write it for you directly. They take the effort of writing. That shows that they want to do it for you.
Got it. Okay.
So they sent that and that is when she replied back saying that okay, I will schedule an interview with you. And she gave me enough time between that. I think she was very busy with her schedule as well. So she gave me enough time with that, which is when I read more about her work. I made my 10 slide presentation. I had questions for her. I looked at such kind of YouTube videos which told me about how to prepare for a postdoc interview, what not to say, what to say, some tricky questions like introduce yourself and things like that. I prepared. I did my homework.
Good.
And I appeared for the interview.
And how long is like tentatively the interview? Like 30 minutes? They can probably schedule for 30 minutes, but if you're so good, it can extend up to like 45 minutes.
No, honestly, I think for a PI like her, or for any known good PI who has been in the field for a long time, it takes like 10 minutes for them to know if you are the candidate or not. Just the vibe, I think. They just know whether we suit in their lab, in the same kind of people, or are we different? Are we intelligent enough to grasp the work that's said? Do we know the basics and things like that?
Okay.
So yeah, I think my interview lasted for like 35 minutes. That was the time. I think one Zoom meeting. That's what it was. She asked me about my work. I presented my work to her in publication. She didn't really ask me about the publication. She saw it on my CV and she must have gone through it to know what it is. And then she asked me about what are my strengths and weaknesses and things like that. And she discussed my family background, my future prospects, what do I want to do in the long run, do I want to be academic or do I want to go to the industry. It does not matter for her. She is open to support you in anything. Not true with all the PIs. Go through your PI's profile well, understand how it is. For me, I had done this homework as well. I had luckily a few friends in Tau, to be specific 1 or 2 from my previous institute, and I asked them about her, how is she as a PI, because for me it is something that matters to me. I just don't want a good scientist, I also want a good person, and she's the perfect match of it. I did this R&D also. I searched for this.
You've invested a lot of time in researching.
I did that because that makes your life easier. Makes your life easier. You don't land up in a lab that you don't want to go to every day. You should feel like going to a lab early morning when you get up.
True.
You should like your people, you like your lab, your colleagues, your boss, most importantly. So that's worked out.
I think we are pretty much done with the technical part of the process and like how to get in, find the right mentor. But I think especially Indian students are always worried about finances. Because Israel is one of the most expensive countries to live in, and people want to know like why should we pick Israel in terms of education. I mean, would love to know like, did you receive a scholarship? Are you receiving a stipend? Is it manageable? Do you take money from your parents? Because I think Indian parents are very like worried कि यार बच्चे कैसे रहेंगे, पैसे नहीं दिया तो, and all of that. So please tell our audience.
Sure, you are right in saying that Israel, and more so Tel Aviv, is very expensive to live. You and me both know that.
Yes.
I was worried too. When I started from India, it was like switching gears altogether. When I started, I did use some of my father's money as the seed money to settle down, which I would return to him over a period of time. But that's because my stipend was promising, yes. I was also worried on if this is going to be enough or no to survive here, but let me tell you, the happy news is it is enough. Generally, you enter with there is a percentage salary or stipend system here. In Tau, which includes 150%, 100% or 200%. For the Israeli students who stay here, who have houses here, it's 100%. But for the internationals like us who come from abroad, it's 150% to start with, because they know that you are going to, you are going to find a house, you're going to live differently here than the Israelis. So you do get more in the first place. And 150% salary stipend means around 8,500 shekels, which is what you get as a start of a postdoc.
And this is per month?
This is per month. This is generally for 1 or 2 years of the contract that you are in. If you and the boss gel well and you want to continue on the project and things are going fine, which most of the case it will be, then you can upgrade to a 200%, which is around 10,000 or 11,000 shekel. I think it's 11. Tentatively. Then you are upgraded in salary, which is good. For a PhD, the usual salary in departments is 5,500. So yes, I understand for a PhD it's a little tricky to manage, and rather I would say it is manageable to stay here. It's not a lot of saving. For a postdoc you can do some saving. For a PhD you can't really do a lot of saving, but if you convert the remaining amount into rupees when you go back to India, it's still a lot.
It's a lot of money.
It's like you don't even get that much paid for a PhD in India. What you save here after staying here.
True.
So, which is a win-win situation, I think.
Definitely.
You're doing your PhD in lesser number of years. You're doing it at a very good reputed institute and a university. Your ranking is good. Your chances of getting to the next postdoc are really nice when you get reco from a professor here, and plus you're living a good life with that money and saving something. So I think it's good. There's no problem.
Okay, so let's say like initially you had to take help from family, but now you're on your own. Like,
Absolutely. So I tried when I came here and when I got my first stipend, I gave this challenge to myself of surviving and completing all the expenses in that first stipend, including the first month's bills, deposit of the new flat, the rent and everything, and not taking any money from the Indian account anymore.
Okay.
And I was successful in doing that. I saved 10 shekels that month, which is like 230 rupees in India, but I did manage it. And there onwards, I don't think I have taken anything from my Indian account.
Dude,
So it's manageable.
Again, like for our potential students to know that सब कुछ खर्चा वर्चा सब छोड़ के कितना monthly saving हो सकता है.
Monthly saving कितना हो सकता है depends on how much salary you have, whether you are a postdoc or a PhD. But I would tell you rather how much is the expenditure.
Okay.
So you minus that. Okay, so the minimal expenditure, I think what you require to survive in Tel Aviv, if you're staying at the university dorms, paying the rent.
So are you living outside or are you living here?
I'm living at the university dorms.
Okay.
I was living outside in the first month when I came. It was little more expensive, like around 200-300 shekels more expensive than this one.
Okay.
But that was only reasonable flat I could find, and people have really difficulty in finding flats near the university which are reasonable. It's very difficult.
To be honest, finding an apartment or renting an apartment in Tel Aviv is like a competition.
Yes.
So if you want to stay outside the campus, be ready to fight for it and be ready to be on Facebook groups to look for one. If not, how is your dorm experience, just to add to it?
It is good.
Okay,
it's a small room, but it is enough for one person.
Okay.
There are also bigger rooms for the family and couples.
Okay.
I did not opt for that. I was single, so I have a single studio room.
Awesome.
It's well equipped, which is most important. You have all the instruments, all the things in the home that are required for a good stay.
Okay.
It's a self room, private room, so you don't have to share anything. The kitchen, the washroom areas, bathrooms, everything is good. It is little expensive for the area that you are given, but that's how it is in Tel Aviv. So you should be okay with it. It's good. I like the campus.
So let's get back to the total expenditure you have.
Right. So I would say it's within 4,000 or 4,500 shekels.
Okay.
I am somebody who does not eat much outside. I prepare my own food. If you're going to eat outside, if provided you like the food here, if you're going to eat outside, it's going to be more expensive.
Definitely.
Extremely expensive here to eat outside. It's not as easy as India that you order a Zomato or a Swiggy and you're chilling at home, getting food. It's not like that. If you have to save something, you really have to be, sometimes ordering out, but not always. Usually I take 4,000 to 4,500 is more than enough. And the transport and everything is very cheap. So you don't really spend money on transport. It's just the food, groceries that you spend, and most importantly the rent. That takes like, I think, 1/4 of our salary.
Yeah, I think rent in Tel Aviv is like most of your salary.
Yes, it does take a lot of it, and but my friends who are doing a PhD here with a 5,500 or a 6,000 stipend are still able to manage.
That's it for today, but it's not over. If you're someone who's looking for smart tips for applying for postdoc or PhD in Israel, you can now head over to part 2 because trust me, you don't want to miss it. See you in part 2.